Hello, my friends. So this is quite exciting, actually, to be honest with you, because so many of us are very focused on participating in a very real way in our legislative process, and we have to do it quickly because there's literally a bill going through in Florida that is very bad for election integrity. So, Jill, thanks for taking the initiative here. What is the intention of the next few minutes that we're going to be talking together on?
Hi, Raj. Thank you. I contacted you to ask you if, for somebody like me who is really interested in helping and would like to go to Tallahassee, and I've not been there yet, at this stage, is it too late for a new person to actually make a difference or help? Is it useful for me to go? Number two, would you like me to wait a moment?
Yeah. Will it make a difference? Because a lot of people thinking the same thing as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. What else?
And then number two, the logistics. When if I do go, is there a hotel that people typically stay at that's close by? What time do I go? Is it at the Capitol building, the legislature building? I mean, where do I literally go? Say I'm driving up early that morning and I don't have a lot of time. I've never been there. If somebody could like direct me, just the literal basics. What do you wear? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then number three, I think I would really want to know, where do I find this information on my own? When you go to the state's website, there's a lot of information. Is there a specific place that I could go to find out like what day and time and place do I actually go? Is there somewhere I can do that on my own? And I would
Great.
like one more thing. Is there like a group of us that kind of go together, or can we do that?
Yeah.
Would it be helpful?
Okay, awesome. So, Joe, very, very important questions. And I'm going to actually ask Liz to join us as well. And the reason I want to ask Liz, hi, Liz, how are
Hi,
you?
good. How are you?
Good, thanks. Because Liz was part of our team that went to Tallahassee just recently, and she was hyper effective. In fact, Liz actually brought her son. Just you can really make this all work. And her son's name was the same name as one of the key representatives that we had to speak with. So that obviously creates some rapport right away. So we're going to do this very quick. It's a short video, lightning round. So Liz, you can see the questions here on the screen. Let me put this on the main view here so we can all see it really well. Liz, why don't you hit, from your perspective, maybe 30, 60 seconds on each of these things, and then I'll comment as well.
Sure.
Why don't you do the first one first? Will it make a difference? Go ahead, Liz.
Absolutely. I think this is the time to go and be seen, be present, and let them know that we care enough to drive up there and voice our concern, because I think that speaks volumes to our elected officials. They know it's a drive and they know it's a lot for us to do that. So if we're taking the time to do that, that's going to tell them a lot. So yeah, go ahead and go, and the sooner the better. And then what's the next question?
Awesome. Okay.
Logistics.
So, and I'll comment on this as well. And I'll comment as well on, will it make a difference? So if you're watching this, you might be also thinking, I don't know if you are or not, but I know I run into this a lot, and you might be thinking, hey, you might not be someone who really thrives in confrontation. You don't really want to confront anyone. You might be someone who is really wanting to help, but you don't want to basically get into confrontation. If that's you, I just want to encourage you with a couple of things. When you go in a team. That's number one. Number two, when you go, have a 2-page document with you with the issues. Now, if you're there and you haven't done this before and you're thinking to yourself, all right, I'm going to speak to an important legislator. Are they even going to believe me? Are they just going to ignore me? Are they going to be condescending? Are they just going to listen to me and then not do anything? So if that's what you're thinking also, I want to encourage you to try the following. Number one, you walk into the meeting, okay, and you are with the representative. Most of our meetings are not scheduled because it's difficult to make appointments. I'll ask Jill to actually talk about here in a second about how we did some of that, where we just walked in. But before I've asked Jill to do that, you walk in the meeting and you'll talk to the aide. Okay, so you walk. The way these rooms are set up is when you walk in, you'll first see a place where it'll be one or more aides, and the representative's office is behind them. That's how this works. So you go and I say, Representative Bob, my name is Raj Doraisamy. I'm here to see, actually, I say to the aide, Jonathan, because his card's right there. Jonathan, my name is Raj Doraisamy. I'm here to see Representative Bob. Does he have a few minutes? And then often, and in fact, I'm going to let Jill talk about, but what I want to get into is you're now in the office with Representative Bob. So here's some things you can say, especially if you're not a confronting type person. You say, thank you very much, Representative Bob, for the good work you and the governor did last year with Senate Bill 524 and election integrity. We really appreciate it. So that's how you get the conversation started. Really nice, really easy. Then you say, I am part of thousands of Floridians that have very strong concerns about the current bill. May I give you a document that has those summarized? Super easy, non-confrontational. What do you think that person is going to say? They're going to say, well, Jill, you may have done this. What do you think the Representative Jill is going to say when you make that question? What are they going to say, Jill?
I would think that as my representative, he would be willing to take the document and look at it.
Exactly. Remember, these are politicians. Everyone's super polite. So it's going to be an easy thing. May I offer that to you? And then when the representative is looking at it, you now might be concerned, what if he asks me a question that I don't know the answer to, right? Because there's a lot to learn over here. And if that happens, here's something that you can say. Thank you for asking the question, Representative Bob. I am part of a team that has done a deep dive onto this. May I give your aide the contact information for my team where your aide can get all the answers to their question? So I'm giving you like a really easy way to kind of navigate that if you have concerns. So having said that, let me bring it back to Liz. Liz, if you could comment on two things. One, the mechanics of actually going there and actually walking into someone's office without an appointment, number one. Number two,
yes.
How from your perspective, should someone deal with, hey, I'm not sure if I can answer a question that get asked me. I'm not an expert on this. Liz, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, great questions. The first one is walking into the office. Let me just tell you what you're going to expect when you go to the Capitol building. There is a parking garage very nearby. I think this is a question it's helpful because where do I park? For one, if you're not staying there and walking to the Capitol, there's a garage called Kleeman Plaza, and there's a Harry's right there, and it's off of I think it's Duval Street. Duval Street is where you go in. And there's another garage called East Side Garage. So first of all, parking. Park in one of those. It's a quick walk to the Capitol. You're going to walk in around to the front of the Capitol. Between the old Capitol, there's a courtyard, and then the new Capitol building, there's a courtyard, and you'll go through the front doors. It's the only entrance you can go into. You'll have to go through a quick security check. It's very quick. And then you go to the elevators, which you don't have buttons inside for. You have to go to a little screen and pick which floor you're going to go to. And that will, and everything to get to either the House or the Senate side, you have to go to the second floor first to get to either one of those. And then there's elevators off of those wings from there. And that's kind of, I know, confusing, but you always have to go to the second floor to get either to the House or the Senate. And again, there's no buttons inside the elevator. You have to choose, pre-select before you go in the elevator which floor you're going to, and it will tell you which elevator to go to. So elevator B, for example, you have to go to that specific elevator based on the choice of floor you selected. So it's very different. And then you can go right on up, find your office that you're going to, walk right in. If it's open, sometimes the doors are closed. If they're closed, you can still kind of knock and see if anyone's in there and open it. Remember, they're there to serve you. So they're happy to do that usually. So you walk right in and introduce yourself to the aide if they're there. And if not, find another aide that may be sitting close by, and they might be able to help you as well. So definitely get the aides cards when you go in, so that if you need to contact them later, you can. And what was the second question, Raj? How to respond?
Sure. So you're there. you've talked about how to make that appointment like you just did, but
Yeah.
now you're in the meeting, Liz, and you're thinking, boy, what if he asked me a question that I have no idea how to
Okay.
answer? So I've only
Well,
spent 45 minutes reading this bill.
yeah. Well, and honestly, they're going to push back probably on anything you have. So my recommendation would be well prepared before you go, and also only have like 2 to 3 points that you're so well versed in, you could probably answer most questions on them. And if you don't have the answer for it, that's a good opportunity for you to ask, may I reach out to you again to talk more about this question? I'd love to help be a resource for you to find the answer. And if you present it that way, then you're setting up future meetings with them and future conversations, which is always a good thing.
Very, very good there. So Jill, does that give some sense of those particular questions? Okay, I see you nodding. So let's move on to the next one.
Yes.
So logistics. So you know where to get parking. You just heard that from Liz. If you go there the day before, there's a DoubleTree Hotel downtown. So DoubleTree Hotel downtown. We stay there often. The rates are pretty good there. There's a Hilton downtown. Just if you do a hotel search downtown, so that you get something close by. And then if you're at DoubleTree, you just walk over.
Okay.
The parking's about $35 overnight for your car. But if you stay overnight, like we did, we went there the night before, we stayed overnight, early morning, we head on over. I think the Capitol opens at 8:30 a.m.
Okay.
But you can leave your car at the DoubleTree and they don't charge you another $35. So you're parking for the night of your stay plus all day, just $35. If you go to the Secretary of State, he's within walking distance. So just Google Secretary of State. Attire. None of us are wearing jeans. I had a suit without a tie. Some of the guys that were with us just had a dress shirt, dress slacks, and the ladies, it's business or business casual.
Okay.
You can comment on that if you want to. The time, what we did is you'll find that there's several people that are coming to Tallahassee on that day, not just your group. So if you can put the word out through Signal, other social media, you could do what we did, which is we said, let's assemble and meet at the cafeteria, which is on the basement level of the Capitol building. That way you can kind of compare notes. Why we did that is when we met, we had asked other teams, hey, bring extra copies of your handouts so we could cross-pollinate and share. And Liz, we also could you talk about how we split up who we were going to, could you talk about that, Liz?
And how many people was on your team?
We had, 5 in one group, and I believe 2 in another group. We should have separated with less in one and more in the other, just because some of the offices were kind of small, so it was difficult to fit everyone. So I would have stepped out of a couple meetings just so that, and it also kind of overwhelmed a couple of legislators, or one of the aides I remember was very overwhelmed. He was overworked, I think, and just overwhelmed with the whole situation. So having 5 people walk in was kind of intimidating for him.
Yeah.
So also, I just wanted to mention, there's this book in the visitor center, and I highly recommend grabbing one of these. It is very helpful because in it you have all of the senators and House representatives listed here and what committees they're on. And then it also lists the committees and who's in them. And this was very helpful for us as a resource to know if we needed to go to a certain group of committee members, to go to those directly. And I highly recommend grabbing one of these. They're free down in the visitor center.
And then to find out what committee the bill is in, I guess, will you address that on that question?
Yes.
Because I think that's a big one. And then to know which members, either House or Senator, that we want to go talk to. I guess that would depend on where the bill is going. Would that be like the list that Debbie Ferris sends out, or did you go to other people? How do we know the most important people, I guess, the committee that we need to go to?
Those are going to be listed on the websites of the Senate and the House, and we can provide
Okay.
those links.
So
super.
one resource you can use is go to defendflorida.org. Well, first of all, DuckDuckGo, right? DuckDuckGo is your friend. Just search. So we can talk about that in just a moment. So if you, and another alternative, go to defendflorida.org, scroll down to this section here, important information, okay? So now I haven't updated this for a while, but this will give you an idea, right? So who's on the, first of all, you said the committees. I'll just go in order of here. So I'm going to click this button here, open a new tab. So this is an example of the State Affairs Committee. This is also what Liz mentioned earlier in the book. But before you leave your house, I suggest you find out which committees are going to be reviewing the bill.
Yes.
And then print that out and then distribute that. So if you split up into teams, you know who's going to see who, number one. Number two, ID the ranking people. So because Florida has more Republicans, we elected just to speak with the Republicans. Obviously, you can speak with Democrats also, but because of the nature of our state, it was, and the limited time, that's what we elected to do. In our case, at the time we went, these are the three people that we needed to make sure we saw. So that's one way you could go about doing that. Number two, the book that was just mentioned. Let me go to your question, which is you're trying to find out which committees to go to. Now, as of the day we're doing this recording, they haven't announced which committee will be looking at the House bill. So, Jill, do we need to talk about House bill versus Senate bill, how that works, or no?
Well, I don't know if that's something that I would learn more when I actually get there. I did have questions. So I just found out even maybe just a year ago that I could watch these sessions live. So that's another link people should have, I think. And I know when I was watching them, there's a lot of people that want to make amendments, and they just go and they say what they want the amendment to be. And that doesn't mean that it's going to be amended, but they actually include it. So those are things that I would like to know when and how can I do this kind of thing. And then also to wave your hand and say, I don't like that, or that kind of thing. Is that something that you could do? How do I know which meetings I can do what at?
Okay, good. So
Yeah.
Go ahead, Liz.
I have some answers for that. So the amendments, the only people who can file the amendments are the legislators, the representatives, and the senators. You can speak to them and ask them to make amendments, and they will consider that and then file them. You can't submit. You cannot file an amendment yourself. However, you can go to any meeting, committee meeting that's happening, whether in a subcommittee or the State Affairs Committee. You can attend those meetings. So it's important to look at the calendar before you go and see if any of the bills you're interested in have been added to the calendar and what committees they're in. And you can attend that meeting. I highly recommend doing that, sitting in. There are forms when you walk into the meeting to fill out if you want to speak. Usually you can speak for anywhere from 1 to 3 minutes. It depends on how many people are in the room. Many times it's been shortened to 1 minute, especially if it's a bill that's being widely opposed or spoken on. So be ready to shorten a speech from 3 minutes to 1 minute, 1 minute really quickly. Or you may also fill out that same form and wave in opposition to the bill or wave in support. So, and they'll read that out loud at the meeting at the end during that comment time. So, yeah.
Is that for just the House or the Senate, or do both?
Senate and House. Yeah, both sides.
Because that's where I see myself more, because I don't want to be confrontational, at least at this stage. I would rather be able to have my voice heard on issues.
I would encourage you to, it's not being confrontational. You have to remember that you have, if you've been researching these bills and you know what's in them and how you can help make them better, you are a resource for them. And you have to remember that these are our elected officials. they're there to serve the public, and that's what you're asking them to do. So if you go in with that mindset, not the idea that you're higher than them, but there's a mutual respect that you have for each other, you for their position and them for you electing, as being the public, you go in with that mindset and just, you have the right to go in and there and talk to them and give them your input. That's how it's designed to work.
Does that make sense to you, Jill?
It does, and I think that's where it would be good to have another person with you and support and remind
Absolutely.
each other, because I would be going in not thinking I'm better than them, but for some reason thinking they're better than me. Is that funny?
Yeah. No, I get it.
Like, yeah.
But they're not. There's a mutual respect, and you have to keep that, and you have information that they need. Remember, they've spent probably not very long looking at each bill. They have thousands of bills to look over in each session, not all of them, but they're not going to know the ins and outs in every bill, and you can provide that information for them. So they're looking to you as a resource often.
Very, very, very well said. I want to comment, Jill, on what you said. So a lot of us are polite. We follow the law. We obey the law. And when we're in the presence of an important legislator, there's a very specific balance that you want to strike. And Liz summed it up with her statement: mutual, two-way respect. So let's talk about some practicalities on how you can make that happen. But before we do that, let me just finish off there was a couple other things that you mentioned on the committees. So if you go to defendflorida.org or you DuckDuckGo, you can actually get to a page like this right here. So here's a list of the member committees that we saw just earlier on. But in particular, if we go to the top and go to the Senate bill here as an example, you will see here the committee actions. Okay, so I believe, Liz, that the Senate doesn't have a committee meeting scheduled yet, neither does the House, but when it does, it will show up here. So this would be a good, I think Liz is nodding, she's not shaking her head, so I think I'm on there. Okay, good. So that's a place to go to. Then with regard to what you talked about, in fact, let me just comment here a little bit. So here are the committee actions, right? That's at the top here. Here are other bills that might be related to this. This is the Senate version, and you can see that the House version is linked right here. Here are some changes that were made. Staff analysis. This is something that's going to be very important for you to look at, especially on the House side. So when I go to the House side, and I'm jumping a little bit here, but when I go over to the House side here, look at this. This would be something I'd really encourage you to go to. The House, what happened there is a representative took the voice of the citizens, and this representative actually filed these, and these are listed right here. These are all amendments. So take a look at these, because what this is these are the concerns we have, okay? But they're written in the format that the legislator uses. Does that make sense? So this is even more useful than the documentation that we came up with. So make sure you're familiar with this, because someone's taken the time to actually write them in that order. Now, Liz earlier mentioned about how to, read the bill. So I know, Jill, you're a tech person. Even though Google's a work doc, I just do want to show you how we're organizing, and there may be bits and pieces here that you can use. Number one, we have a spreadsheet, and this spreadsheet has all of the people that we're speaking with. So you can see this. Here are the senators. Here's the aide. Here's a phone number. Here's the email. Here's a person. Here's the status of the phone call, because we have a bunch of volunteers calling. Here are the notes. Here's the location. Here are the next steps. So these are all skills that you probably use in your job. Bring those skills here, and it'll make a tremendous difference. That's number one. Number two, we have a Google Doc where we have listed all of our concerns, and that helps us keep everyone on the same page, because otherwise you can get overwhelming. So you can see that here. Let me stop talking there and let me go back to the list. Liz, was there anything you want to add to that before we go back to Jill's list?
I would just encourage that one sheet paper, definitely have that as a resource for yourself, as a guide to follow, to keep yourself on point, because you only have a very limited amount of time most of the time with them. So you want to be quick and succinct and get your point across. Offer them a solution. If you have one, I would definitely recommend trying to have one, because they don't want just problems, they want solutions. And give them that paper, make copies to leave with them, highlight your solution so that's the attention is drawn to that, and leave it with them. Get their card, get their AIDS card, ask if you can contact and do a follow-up meeting with them, or to call on the phone to check to see the status of the bill or the concerns that you have.
Okay.
This,
And then
this is one moment. This is document we used, and this was too long. So you guys do better than what we did. Here's a list of our concerns. It's just a Google Doc. We put a QR code there so that when you handed it over, the aide could scan this and look at it electronically if they wanted to. Table of index here. So take what we have and reduce it massively. But I want to show you the way we were thinking. Here's the concern, the problem that we have. Here's a language that we had a problem
I'd love a link
with.
to that.
What did you say?
A link to that, or like an example of a 2-page or a 1.5 page, document that you bring would be really helpful, so that we kind of can organize our thoughts.
Okay. So Jill, after this call, if you could remind me, and I'll put the links that you just mentioned on defendflorida.org homepage. Okay.
If it's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course it's okay. It's awesome. Hey, so you are the solution. It's not that, okay. You are the VIP. You and your team VIPs here. So be thinking, just be kind of recalibrate how important you are to making this happen. And the last thing I want to say is, to Jill's point, here's a concern that we have, and here's a solution. And the way that's broken down, I know this is kind of almost TMI, but I just want to underscore this. Here's a language that we don't like. Here's a concern. In yellow, here's a language that we think would help the problem. So we give them problem and solution. And you can use whatever we've used. I just want you to Jill's point, to Liz's point, make it much shorter than we have so far. Okay, so we may have lost Jill. We'll wait for her to come back. Liz, we're still recording. You mentioned taking notes. You mentioned taking notes. You mentioned getting the business cards. What are the logistics while Jill is coming on that we should be paying attention to?
There is a disability parking lot for anybody who has needs to be parking closer, that's not staying overnight and is driving up that morning. It's on the west side of the house. Just keep that in mind. That's something I thought of for anybody who's going. I think we might have hit it all. Racking my definitely going. You can actually go in at 8 a.m. and sometimes even before that. I think I was there at. I think we showed up at the same time, and it was just before 8 a.m. We were able to get in and go down to the cafeteria, which is in the lower level.
Yeah, good.
And quick place to get food.
Okay, that's good. Yeah. Jill, I can't see you, but if you
can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay. My cat unplugged my camera, so give me just a moment. He's been over here really dying to be on camera too, but
okay. The cat unplugged the camera.
I think so. It says,
Jill, I thought of something, and it might be.
This is all going out. So go ahead, Dave.
I was saying, Raj mentioned I brought my son with me, and feel free to bring kids, because actually that was one thing I noticed. They spent a little bit more time with us, and when I had a child with me or other children, I've seen them spend time with them and get to know them, and it brought just a level of relationship that we could bring in. My son, one of the aides, it was her birthday that day, and he grabbed a card real quick and wrote her happy birthday. And then when I called her another day at a later date, I asked her if she celebrated that night. So she remembered me, and she remembered that card. And so it was just a small thing, but it made an impact because she remembered me. And then we could work with her later to, did you also submit that, whatever you need them to do. They're there to help you. Utilize the aids.
So good. So we gave a lot of information, Liz. Could you just maybe summarize it, kind of like the quick summary of what all they need to do? Yeah.
Okay, so second floor, go to the second floor to go to the different offices. Then you want to have a 1 to 2 page, keep it short, of your concerns and your solutions. Highlight solutions. Introduce yourself to the aide. Definitely introduce yourself to the aide. Get their information, and don't be afraid to walk into offices and ask them if you can, even if you don't have an appointment, if you can see them. Look for the committee meetings to see if you're there at a committee day, and attend them if you can. And then wave in support or opposition. Voice make your voice heard. That's what you're there to do, and you don't want to waste any time doing that. So go to as many offices as you can.
So well said. So thank you for that. During the day, if you split up, we set up a signal group just for the people in Tallahassee. So after we met with someone, we put in the signal thread, okay, I met with Representative Bob. Here's what happened. And sometimes we took pictures and we shared the pictures. So that's another way to keep the comms going. Jill, I think we've covered everything. Anything you want to add before we conclude the call? And she may not. Oh, wait, here we go.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, good. I'm sorry. It might not have been my cat. I can't seem to get my camera back, but this has been very useful. You did mention that if I wanted to, like if I happen to say something like there are thousands of other people that have my thoughts, they're thinking the same way. And you said that I could give like the aide outside a contact where they could get more information so my question would be, where do I get that contact information, Raj?
Yeah, sounds good. So there's several organizations that are involved in this. You can certainly give them Defend Florida's information. I'll send that over to you.
Okay.
You can, another organization that FFE, Florida, I always call them FFE. I think it's Florida Fair Elections.
Yes.
I think that's the organization's name. Nations in Actions, another group that they've actually sent a letter to the governor. About 30 other organizations have signed. FRA, another group that's, in fact, so there's several groups. Take your pick, which one you want, and then I can, after we're done with this, let me know, and I'll give you whatever specifics you need for your team. Couple of things here. If you would like to be in the loop with more information, text the word defend. Text the word defend to 91776. That's the defend movement. So you can be on our mailing list and get information that way. Liz, Jill, does that answer your question?
Yes, very well. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you for watching this video. Depending on where you watch this video, if you're watching this on defendmystate.com, please look at the other videos that are either above or below this, because on those videos here, we talk about the process that we used. We talked about how to keep your team cohesive. You have several personalities on your team. All of you love Florida. All of you love the country, and your skill sets are different. And it's so easy for a click to start and the team to split. It just blows my mind. So you want to manage for that, so keep your team working together. So all those videos are either above or below this. If you're watching this somewhere else, go to defendmystate.com for that. And Jill, did you want to create a signal group? I'm putting you on the spot here. A signal group where it just talks about logistics for people going to Tallahassee.
Yes, I did, but so far the only two people in that group are you and I.
Okay. So what that means is there is a signal group being started, and this group will not be for opinions on who's doing bad or who's doing good. It's just logistics. How to get yourself to Tallahassee, who did you meet with, who's an ally, who's blowing you off, so we can share that information. This is probably going to be an invite only, so you're going to have to contact Jill to be in that group. But I'm encouraging you, that is a good way to use technology to accelerate that. Before we finish, Liz, any closing comments from you before we end?
Yeah, just remember that you are the resource for them. You have value in this to them. So keep your mindset that in that regard, and not that you're inferior, because they work for you.
Yeah. There's a video. This is, I'm glad you brought that up. There's a video on defendmystate.com that is essential that you watch. And it talks about how to, your demeanor. And why I'm drawing attention to that is there have been people, and I'll just say it right here, there have been people that meant well, but when they went to Tallahassee, their behavior was not professional. And I'm sure they felt that they were venting, or I don't know what they were thinking, but I'm sure they felt that way. But I want you to hear this. If you're unprofessional, if you threaten, if you are disrespectful, you are literally moving this movement back.
Yep.
By a long shot.
Absolutely.
So if anyone on your team behaves that way, I'm asking you to mitigate. In fact, I think it's this one right here, how to win with officials. So make sure you watch this video here. It talks about how we have tried to create that blend of being humble, being meek, being confident, being respectful, being assertive with mutual respect.
Right.
And when you have a team together, you know, different people will have that skill set, and you can convey that. You're going to say something, Liz?
I was just going to say that balance is important. You don't want to get that out of balance in any way. Keep the balance of that mutual respect.
And this is a video that these are all short videos. I know this video, I thought this would be 10 minutes, 36 minutes here, but this is a short video here. This one, how to reduce drama in fighting. We covered some of this here. Guys, just watch as many of these videos as you can. This one here is so critical. This one here.
Welcome, my friends, to this module.
Let me try and mute this. There we go. This is by a guy named John Jaggers. He is our key strategist, one of our key strategists for Defend Florida. And make sure you watch this, because this video will tell you the difference between access and influence. Just because you have access to a legislator does not in any way, shape, or form mean you're influencing them. So you want to make sure you watch that video. And the last thing I'm going to say is this: none of us are politicians. We're not elected officials. We're not attorneys. Your job is to contact your legislator so that they can guide you, contact your attorney that they can guide you. We are simply sharing with you what we did. We're not professionals. And so you want to make sure you check with your elected official and your attorney to cover how you conduct yourself in Tallahassee. All right, with that said, my friends, have a great rest of the day, and we'll talk later. Jill, have an amazing trip to Tallahassee. There you go. There's John Jaggers. Make sure you watch that video there. All right. Thank you, guys. And I'm going to stop, or else I'll keep talking. All right.
Thank you.